Hello, good morning. It's coming up to 10 to 7 on Friday the 28th of January and I'm setting out on my first 200km DIY hauled axe of the year. It's not an official DIY actually, I should call it a DIY randonnée. More about the route later, but I call this one Carry On Up the Severn. Hope that will become obvious as the day goes on. As I said on the last video, thank you so much for the comments, and talking about that, a couple of comments I have had which I think are really relevant is actually getting yourself out the door on days like this. It's quite frosty this morning, there could possibly be a bit of ice on the roads. I'm taking it quite cautiously before it gets light, which is about another hour away. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that, so just to be clear, it's not advice, I'm not an expert, I'm not trained, but I do heavily rely on people who are trained and experts in their field. So 3 thoughts, 2 science-backed and 1 just anecdotal, so just please feel free to share your thoughts with me, whether you agree with them, whether you don't. So the first one, this is science-backed. I was thinking, getting yourself out the door, there's sometimes that hesitation when it's dark. I have it as well. I mean, for instance, the other evening I went out Wednesday night about 5:45, just as it's getting dark, so I want to do 2 hours out in the pitch black, just testing my night navigation skills. And yeah, sure, as it got dark I thought, oh, do I really want to go out? You know, it's nice and warm inside. Had that slight sort of reluctance to go out. So one of the methods I rely on actually is just understanding why that could well be, and I think it could be related to procrastination. Now, I will cite an expert, I'll put her video in the link below. It's just a 2 or 3 minute talk which explains what procrastination is, what causes it, and a very simple, ever so effective technique to overcome it. But just basically the summary of that is, when you sort of think about things you're slightly uneasy about, apparently it activates regions in your brain associated with pain, so that explains why you may have that reluctance. Naturally your brain tries to avoid that pain and it looks for other things like staying in a nice warm cozy bed or putting off to later things you'd really rather not do. But here's the good news, and again the evidence is cited in the slides at the end of that video. Research seems to suggest that reluctance, that pain almost, dissipates after about 20 minutes, and I'm sure a lot of you will have experienced that. Once you actually get out, it's nowhere near as bad as you thought it may be. In fact, within about half an hour or so you're actually really enjoying it. And so that's something I rely on. I try and understand what's causing that unease. So that is the first scientific backed thought about this. I think it could well be linked to procrastination, and just understanding the cause and the effect of, you know, if you can overcome it after about 20-25 minutes it just dissipates. And so that's a really strong one for me. Anyway, I'm going to get on at a bath. I'll talk to you on the road. So before I get on to describing today's route, I'll tell you the second thought I have about getting out on mornings like this. Now it's a lot easier, but yeah, when I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning it was, oh, do I really want to? And the truth is, yes I did. It took me about 10 minutes just to wake up, coffee helped and some breakfast. The second scientific back method is just removing friction from decisions which could be tricky, just removing any obstacles. I know it sounds technical, just let me give an example. Yesterday I just prepared all my bike, got the water bottles on there overnight. I mean, if it was a hot day I'd have put them in the fridge and put a metal bottle in the bottle rack which would have rattled, which would have made sure I didn't leave the house without my water bottles. It would remind me. I just prepared everything yesterday, made sure the route was in the Garmin, saddlebag loaded. So this morning my bike was literally ready just to get on and roll away. I've removed any sort of obstacle, because there's nothing worse than leaving it for the last minute thinking, oh, where's my woolly hat that is colder than I thought, where's my insulated hat, or oh gosh, I thought my high vis was there and it's not. You know, I've just removed any chance of that. And one of the books I've been inspired by is Good Habits, Bad Habits by Wendy Wood. A lot of people write this mentorship stuff on the internet and in books, and a lot of it's really good. You know, James Clear's Atomic Habits, for example. Wendy Wood, she's a leading expert in habit formation, and she's not citing other people's research, she's done the research herself. So in effect, you're getting it from the horse's mouth, and this is one of the tips she used. Just remove any friction, make your decisions as easy as possible, because in essence we like the path of least resistance, don't we? We like routine and habits. I mean, that's why bad habits are so hard to break, aren't they? Giving up smoking or cutting down on overeating, you know. But conversely, good habits are so embedded, you know, why not maximise them and leverage them a little? The third thing which really helps, now this probably is totally irrational, it doesn't make any sense, but I just know it works. I let my bike get a little bit muddy the last couple of rides. I just haven't cleaned it. I made sure the chain's okay, and yesterday I gave it a really thorough cleaning, put some new brake blocks in the front, degreased all the chain and the jockey wheels. It's sparkling, and this morning, doesn't make sense, but it feels like it's going much easier because it's clean. I mean, that's irrational, isn't it? But I used that today because I knew I'd probably need a little bit more incentive today. So just having a clean bike that's freshly maintained makes so much difference. I know it doesn't make sense, does it? Anyway, this morning's route, I'm heading westwards to the coast, Burnham on Sea, and then I'm sort of turning northwestish, northeastish, and I'm heading up the coast through Weston Super Mare, Clevedon, Portishead, Severn Bridge, and then I'm sort of doing a big curve back through Thornbury, Tortworth, back to Bath. I'll put a map on the screen now. The sun's now up, as you can see, on this section of lanes, and it's quite frosty looking in the daylight, so I'm really glad I took the main road in the dark, especially going down a steep hill. In fact, coming up a steep hill at Radford, my back wheel was slipping. There's no guarantee that's ice, it could just be such a low gear and the roads are a bit wet, but looking down at these pedals, let me give you an example. Looking at these pedals here, they look like they're almost about to freeze. It's got that slight crease on them. I'll chuck a bit of twig in. Yeah, that's definitely frozen, it's resting on the top. Once I'm in Wales, I'll be on a flat section for a long time, so I'll have lost the elevation and hopefully it'll be a lot warmer down there, and as the sun rises it'll thaw everything anyway. So yeah, next half a mile cautiously, then a right hand turn over the Mendips to Wales. I'm on the main Radstock to Wales Road now. The visibility up here is, I'd say, about 200 metres. I'm now in the city of Wales and the mist hasn't cleared. Coming down there, it got thicker and thicker. It's cleared a little bit at the bottom, but I think I'm going to be in this for the next hour or so till the sun rises and burns it away, maybe mid-morning. As I'm passing through Wales, I couldn't pass Wales Cathedral and not share this lovely view with you. I came here on a school trip when I was about 8 or 9 and I was blown away by the cathedral then, and I still have that childlike awe of it whenever I pass it now, even in my 60s. 28 miles in, I've just stopped at the community shop at Wedmore, so it means less than 100 miles to go. It's psychologically quite pleasing. I don't really need to stop here. I just picked up a bar of chocolate. I've broken lots of squares up to put it in my food bag. I stopped here more out of fondness, really. I stopped here so often on my randonneur around the year a few years back. I just always want to sort of stop here. I almost get dragged here like a magnet actually whenever I come by. So quick mouthful of chocolate and I'll be on my way. Just gone 10:30 and you may see all the mist has cleared. There's even some blue sky look as I'm crossing the sunset levels. That's Brent Knoll in the far distance. Looking across, you can see the summit is still covered in mist, hadn't quite cleared up there yet. John Wesley, the founder of Methodicism, was said to have gone up there one evening at sunset and gained inspiration for some of his sermons. Anyway, plod on, cross the M5 and the A38 and head to the coast at Burnham on Sea. I'm just coming into the back of Burnham on Sea through Edithmead Lane. Just wanted to show you Edithmead Church. This is a tin tabernacle. And tin tabernacles were originally temporary structures. You can see it's almost made of corrugated iron, and they were put up for temporary worship until something more permanent could be built, and a lot of them around here have just survived, and this is one of them. This always raises my spirits coming by here. I'm not quite sure why, but it just does. I'm now coming into Weston Super Mare. As you can see, it's very foggy yet again. When I got to Burnham on Sea, I sometimes turn left and go down to the town and have some beans on toast, but I needed to try and regain some of the time I lost on the dodgy roads first thing this morning, and the mist, and just, you know, the severity of the gradients. So I've just done a long fast stretch coming into Weston Super Mare now. Wow, just about half a mile further along, right outside the Grand Pier, you may see it's just cleared completely again. It's still faintly in the air, but oh, and it's out there about a quarter of a mile out to sea, the mist. But yeah, it just keeps changing so much. Got very fond memories of Weston Super Mare. We used to come here for our holidays when I was a child, and because Linda's birthday is in July, we quite often come here for the day actually. We just like fish and chips, ice cream, you know, go on the pier, dodgems, play a bit of crazy golf, a couple of hours in Wetherspoons, you get the picture. As I leave Weston Super Mare and head up the coast towards Sand Bay before we go inland and then up to Clevedon, very sad sight behind me. That's Burnham Pier, also known as the Old Pier. I said earlier on, when we were children, we would come here with our grandparents on holiday, and one of the treats we had during that fortnight was a paddle steamer trip from there across to either Barry Islands, there used to be a fun fair there, or Cardiff. As you can see, it's fallen into a state of repair. I do understand the local council have just purchased it and they're going to restore it, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be saved. Anyway, a few years ago when I was doing lots of my long old axes, I really got into doing old axes using ferries. Actually, I tried to get one which used 4 ferries down on the south coast. Anyway, I was talking to my friend Denise once, and she said she'd got a boat from Weston Super Mare, Knightstone Harbour in fact, over to one of the Bristol Channel Islands. I think it's Flatholm or Steepholm for an excursion. She said they sailed from Weston, Knightstone Harbour, went across to Cardiff, picked people up before they then offloaded them at Steepholm for a few hours and then sort of brought them back. Anyway, that gave me an idea. Could I use that ferry for a 200-kilometre old axe? So I worked out a route between Bath and Weston Super Mare, which would be about 100 kilometres, and then from Cardiff back to Bath, which would be another 100 kilometres. Obviously, the ferry across would be null and void. It wouldn't count. And I ran this by Tony, the DIY organiser, sort of said, you know, is that acceptable? He said, yeah, but obviously the ferry won't count. And I sort of said, no. And he sort of said, you know, you'll lose a big chunk of time. And I said, yeah, I appreciate that. I even come up with a title for the ride, 7 to 1 this will work, so I knew it'd be a lot of luck involved. And I even rang the people up one night and said, you know, would you actually take me across for 20 quid? Just Weston to Cardiff. And he sort of said, well, yeah, if there's room, you and your bike, if there's room, it's first come, first served. On the off chance, we're not waiting for you. And it just never quite happened that year. And then, obviously, with COVID and everything, it's been put on the back burner, but I still quite fancy giving that a go, actually. Here's a copy. I think I've still got a copy of that route, so here's a map of it to give you an idea of what I was proposing to do. If I turn around, there's a park just behind us. See if I can get it in. That little hut up there, all it is a weatherproof shelter. But in the 1980s, there used to be a BBC drama called Shoestring. It's about a detective solving mysteries. And they used that as a scene of a cafe. It was like a punk rocky sort of cafe. And I think they had Toya Wilcox in it as well. And it all involves a murder. So yeah, that was like a punk rock milk bar stroke cafe stroke bar scene of a murder actually. So yeah, I always think of that when I ride by. Hello again, it's now about halfway round, slightly over halfway, and I'm at Clevedon. You may see the pier just behind me. I'm just going to dive in this little shelter, looking out this wonderful view behind me. It's cleared up quite nicely now actually. I'm going to have a snack here. So what have we got? Well, first of all, I'm charging my Garmin. I've stopped at a little shop actually, back about a mile or so. Second time in less than a week. I just saw an ice cream and fancied an ice cream, so got a Magnum and one of these Monster drinks. You know what, I'm not sure if that company Monster is a drinks company or a graphic design company who just happens to put sugary drinks inside their products. And I got some ham sandwiches from home, so bon appetit. Give you an idea of the geography then. That hazy outline you can see in the distance, that's actually South Wales. And this is the Bristol Channel here, and just round this corner there, just round from the pier, is the Severn Estuary. Do you know, I'm actually not quite sure where the Severn Estuary finishes and the Bristol Channel starts, even if there is a definitive line. So we're heading round the corner. The coasts, sort of both sides, sort of merge in as it becomes an estuary and a river, and then we will climb out of here. Actually, it's a bit of a drag, and then drop down into Portishead, then over the Avonmouth Bridge, the M5 bridge, and then there's some really, well, they're a bit industrial, but I actually really enjoy it, some cycle lanes all around the back of Avonmouth, and it takes you up towards Severn Beach. Now left Clevedon, we're hugging the coast here. There's quite a long grind up before we then drop down to Portishead, but you can get some good views of the Severn bridges in the distance. Hope this comes out. The slightly darker, newer one in the near distance, and behind it the very distinctive white cabling of the suspension bridge, the what is now the M48. The one in front of it, the newer one, that's pretty much where Severn Beach is. Daffodil alert. First daffodils I've seen of the year. I saw my first snowdrops the other day when I was sat in that churchyard having my picnic. How's this for a street with a view? So I've just climbed up from that direction, up from Clevedon, come inland very slightly. Now we're dropping back down to the coast. I mean, look at this residential street with that in the background. I've ridden from Portway. All the busy roads had cycle paths right next to them, so that's fantastic. I've come along through Sheepway, which is quite nice, and then you may hear the roar of the traffic. This road just turns on this really busy road, and right behind it you'll see the motorway, but it's great. There's a footbridge and cycle bridge going right over it, which we're going to take, head along to Pill, and then we're crossing over the Avonmouth Bridge, the M5 bridge. I hope you can hear me. I'm on the motorway bridge now, which you can probably guess. I've just come along that way, along here. There's the River Avon, look, heading into Bristol. And that's it, heading into Avonmouth, out into the Bristol Channel. There's a couple of cyclists coming, so that's the direction I'm going. I've just cut through Lawrence Weston High Street. You can hear the roar of the traffic on my right hand side. Now I'm just joining the Lawrence Weston Greenway. The Greenway then takes you all through alongside the back of this residential area. You can probably hear the constant roar of the motorway right behind me. So we really are right in the heart of the Avonmouth industrial area. You can see there's a lot of fly tipping goes on around here. Warehouses everywhere, all these wind turbines. It's a nice quiet road this, I say quiet, no traffic on it, but there's just a constant roar of motorways either side of you, and the smell, the stench from these streams is just overpowering. You certainly wouldn't want to fall in there. I wouldn't rate your chances of coming out alive. There's probably things living in there that probably wouldn't look at a place on a Doctor Who episode. Now you're going to start snaking all around the back of these warehouses. I've done several variations of this route. I've modified it several times, but one of the early versions, I brought a couple of mates around actually, Brian and Birdie. And Birdie works for a food company, and he does a lot of driving for them, and they're big distribution bases around here somewhere. And I remember him sort of saying, do you know what, I've worked around there for 20 odd years or so, I never knew these cycle paths existed. So it's amazing what's on your own doorstep, or other people's doorsteps in this case. Now on this nice smooth cycle path next to the main road, this is quite nice, atmospheric. You may see the cycle path now just back a little bit from the road. Going to carry on along here before it then runs alongside the road. Final mile or so to Severn Beach. Just managed to get across the road there. There you go, Severn Beach, along there. Here we are, just gone 4 PM at Severn Beach. So I've just come up here. And there's some views, look, of the new Severn Bridge. There you have it then, looking back at Avonmouth Docks. Look, it's never going to win a beauty contest, is it? But I just sort of think it's got atmosphere, and I actually love the intricate route. I'd have never found that by myself. It's not one of my constructions. I literally got that just by plotting it on Ride with GPS. So quite a contrast on this ride, you know, from the Misty Mendips this morning, going down into World Heritage City of Wales, across the Somerset Levels in the sun, up the coast, you know, through the Victorian seaside resorts, and this was a Victorian seaside resort, and then you have all the industry of Avonmouth. You know, it's quite a contrast, you know, a very diverse ride. I mean, diversity is not just about box ticking and meeting quotas, is it? It's about contrast. Anyway, my fingers are starting to get numb, so I'm going to be heading off shortly. We're now crossing a busy road coming out of Severn Beach. Can you see the bridge over there if I zoom right in? I've just turned off the main road, crossed over the motorway and dropped down. This is actually a no-through road. It leads up to this nature reserve, and then we're going to go down this way, follow some cycle paths which will run right alongside the motorway. Okay, so we're now on this cycle path running right next to the motorway, but that's quite weird, isn't it? Look, there's a welcome to England sign. I don't think we've strayed over into Wales. I think that's just extended past the bridge. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's a little bit weird, isn't it? So carry on along here, and you actually end up coming out through some trees right next to a pub at the end of the no-through road. I'll show you what I mean when we get there. Right next to the motorway, you follow along, you join a farm road very briefly, then come down this bit of cycle path, and you end up here, look, opposite this pub. The White Horse Inn, right at the end of, well, as far as it can go, and then we take some lanes that way up towards Thornbury. My camera's getting quite low in charge, so I'm probably going to stop filming until we get to Thornbury. I'll talk to you there. I'm now in Thornbury. I just came in on some minor roads, joined this road. I'm going to head north out of here. I'm going to show you something in about half a mile before I go, about 2 or 3 miles north, and then do my final turn, start heading back southwards to Bath. I just wanted to show you this as we leave Thornbury. Look what someone's got up and added to the speed camera. That always makes me chuckle to myself as I ride by. I'm absolutely loving this, riding up to cross over the A38, then climbing up to Michael Wood. You may know the name Michael Wood better through the M5 services of the same name. I felt fine actually after the 100 miler on Sunday at the end, and then on Monday I felt really stiff and sore. I couldn't have ridden this on Monday, and probably not on Tuesday. I probably could have yesterday actually. I actually feel fine now. I'm over the 100 mile mark. Here we are, just come up to a T-junction with the A38. Signpost over there. So I'm going to turn left and immediate right and take some lanes up towards Michael Wood. For the umpteenth time, but the final time I'm crossing the M5 today. This is climbing up through Michael Wood, and as I was saying about the services, you may just see the green light there of the service area. It's literally just off to the left, and this is, well, you can't see it, but on the other carriageway, the carriageway behind all the white lights, it just slopes up there. That's actually Michael Wood itself. Now just getting on the bicycle track actually, just come along this way, and I'm heading up this way. It's going to be traffic free most of the way back. Do you know what, it's 20 to 8. I've been really dawdling with the filming and all that today. I feel actually fine, to be honest. Don't feel fatigued, whatever. I've got about 11 or 12 miles to go, but I'm going to be, if this was an official DIY, I'd be sort of like touching the sort of cut-off times. It's now 20 to 9 and I'm just about to come off the bicycle track, and I've got about 1.3 miles of road to ride home. So it's about, I've got, if this was a DIY, I'd have about 40 minutes of my time allowance left. So I've really managed to sort of increase the pace of the last 10 miles where I thought I might be running out of time theoretically. I feel quite good. I feel better than the 150 kilometre and the 100 miler on Sunday. It just shows, you know, raising the game slightly in incremental steps, it's really paid off. It really has. If you've watched this far, I hope you've enjoyed coming along. First 200 of the year under the belt. I'm going to keep doing them now, probably one a week or one a fortnight, as I build up to the 300 kilometre, but more about that later in the spring. Hope you found the tips useful this morning. I mean, it's based on experts, actually, 2 people who I've got a massive amount of respect for, and for me it's just a case of listening to their expertise and trying to apply it in different realms of life, you know, and cycling is just one of those realms. Anyway, I normally try to overdub a little bit of music on my videos. Today I'm not going to do that actually, because I've had a song going through my head all day. In fact, I've played it on my phone a couple of times. It's my song at the moment, so I will put a link to that hopefully in the top right hand corner of the screen right now. If I can't manage that, I'm just going to finish the video looking a bit silly with a couple of fingers raised. Anyway, as usual, thank you so much for watching. Look out for each other and I'll see you soon.